Hey y'all, welcome to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, fringe candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And we do have to hit a bit of recent news, I think, before we really get going here. The Libertarian Party has been having a week.
Oh no!
Just kind of a bit of heads up on the Libertarian Party. For a number of years, they were headed by what was known as the Pragmatic Caucus, where it was like, yes, we're libertarians, but we also have to be sensible about what we say because we need people to vote for us if we're ever going to enact libertarianism. This last year, they were taken over by the Mises Caucus, which is a group of extreme libertarians who also have their roots in the League of the South and have named themselves after a guy who was very fond of Catholic dictatorships during pre-World War II.
Wow, the company you keep.
It's not great. And so this last week, there was a post that the New Hampshire Libertarian Party made, who is considered to be the most libertarian of all the libertarians, that democracy is low-level communism.
Come on, this is just shit posting at this point.
And when people called them out for this, the Libertarian Party essentially said they don't support democracy.
Then, get out, go, bye.
And the funny thing about this, though, is a number of people have asked them, well, then what? What do you support? What form of government do you support? To which I actually got the response of people just being like, what do you mean government? It's essentially, they want anarchy without saying the word anarchy. And I think I finally figured it out. These are a bunch of fucking ANCAPs who are running everything now. Anarcho-capitalists who essentially believe business should be running things.
It's so gross and dumb.
You know, I think they realize that it's gross and dumb because they're not outright saying it. It's a bold move to say that we're no longer supporting democracy. It also sets you up to a lot of people saying, well, yeah, people who can't win elections typically don't support democracy.
Boom. CC, Republicans.
Yeah. It's become very disconcerting because at this point, I think it's a very simple question to be like, well, if you don't support democracy, then what do you support? And to just ignore those questions entirely is really grifty and weird.
Yeah, it's not just that they're ignoring them, but it feels like the responses they are giving out are boiled down essentially like, check out my cool NFTs. And it's like, dude, that was like 2 months ago. What? I answered the goddamn question.
A lot of the comments are like, this is the most based party in America. And it's just like, oh, you're just no fun. You're just not a sensible person. You're looking for just opinions that anger people for good reason.
Yeah, this is politics by an edgelord.
Yeah, even Joker realized we live in a society. It's somehow beyond that.
Like, as someone who creeps too close to being extremely online with every coming week, I hear this and I feel like, oh God, like, this is what I need to avoid. I need to not only delete Twitter, but also somehow like ban it from my phone because now I just go through like the Chrome app.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think one of the worst parts of having to keep up with third-party news is it does lend itself to pushing you more and more terminally online and getting involved in these very, very niche arguments.
Right.
Between what is proper socialism? How are we defining libertarianism? Should anyone have rights?
See, it's one thing when like I go on to my feed and the discourse is all about "Don't worry, darling" and the premiere at Venice.
I've never been so thankful for Harry Styles to maybe potentially spit on anyone, just because at the time I was reading a lot of discourse as to actually, Keffel's actually bad. And now that Kiwi Farms is gone, an army of clout chasers have come out to try to become the next ruler of discourse. And I was so happy for Don't Worry, Darling pulling me out of that into the ludicrous world of people arguing pettily in front of Nick Kroll.
Right. And filling the timeline with memes using Chris Pine's face disassociating during a press conference.
Oh, when Harry Styles is saying he likes this movie he's in because it's a movie and it feels like a movie.
A+ grad work there, sir.
Look, this is why Florence Pugh showed up 15 minutes late with an Aperol Spritz, because she doesn't need that time and she needs an Aperol Spritz for what's coming.
She's good. Yeah, she's going to need to drink heavily.
Damn fine drink.
It's very refreshing.
So I figured I'm glad we segued into that because it's a nice grounding point. But yeah, libertarians don't believe in democracy anymore. And if you try to ask them what it is, they're going to be vague as fuck and then really mean as fuck.
then
So,
I feel like if you come out and say we don't believe in democracy, then you get removed from the ballot. It's like, well, okay, then you don't get to participate in the thing you don't believe in.
right?
Congrats.
Yeah, it would just be like, just say what you want. Do you want like electoral representation? That's at least an answer. But it just all boils down to we're tired of waiting. We know we're right, and so just make us in charge.
Yikes.
Or you get nothing, or there's just anarchy, and you're living in company towns, and I mean,
Right.
rainwater's already poisonous to drink, so why not?
Yeah, thanks to the libertarians' lack of not reform, but the thing that makes
Regulation, I think is
yeah.
what you mean. Yeah.
I'm gonna warn you now, Dusty. I'm still on Labor Day brain.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good because the topic we're talking about today, great segue, thank you, is not something that's going to cause a lot of thinking. It's a lot of learning
Ooh.
for the most part. It's not going to be as kind and sweet as Gabriel Green or Emperor Norton, but we're also not going into the territory of just like horribly evil people doing terrible things. It's like mid-level evil.
Oh, okay, great.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil too much, but
Give me
we'll
some
get
middle management evil.
Yes, yes. We are talking some blue collar evil. No. White
Ooh,
collar evil is what we're talking about today.
excellent.
So here in America, we make a pretty big deal of we have 50 states. It's on our flag. Every time we get a new country, we have to redevelop the flag. It's a pain in the ass, but it's how we made it and will never change. And of course, from this, we develop weird interstate rivalries based on sports, history, or the fact that Delaware is just a shit state for bad people.
If we got rid of Delaware, we could bring on Washington, D.C., and I think that would be a better trade.
That is such a good trade. And to give Maryland more oceanfront property, I think is fair. They do good stuff with it. I mean, crabs are delicious. Ocean City's not the worst place to go.
Old Bay seasoning.
Oh my God. Yeah. What have you done for me, Delaware? You're a tax haven for jerks. Fuck off.
Gave us the wire.
That's yes. So we're officially trading DC for Delaware.
Yeah.
It's gonna, and you know what? I think Republicans would support that because it's a complete wash.
There you go.
And technically, Joe Biden couldn't be president anymore. So that'll
right. It becomes the February 29th of states.
Love it. So we'll put that in the books for a future time. But the state of secession does have one side effect, and it's that we never really talk about the various territories that America oversees and controls. Now, we're all familiar with DC. DC is not really a state. It's more like a protected area where the capital is, and they've been trying to become a state for decades.
Yeah, taxation without representation.
Yep, it's what everyone here loves.
Salty license plates.
Yep. There's Puerto Rico, which is probably the most well-known of the territories. There have been countless arguments also for decades as to whether or not Puerto Rico should have its own independence, if they should join America or remain a commonwealth as things are right now. We'll eventually get into that. It's a much deeper topic than one sentence could ever cover. But that also leaves out a bunch of the lesser-known American territories. And the one that we'll be talking about today, the Northern Mariana Islands. So historians believe that the Northern Mariana Islands were some of the very first settled by people in the area that is referred to as remote Oceania. These islands were settled between 1500 and 1400 BCE by people traveling from the Philippines. And eventually these people would become known as the Chamorros. In 1952, Ferdinand Magellan, the man who gets credit for circumnavigating the globe despite getting killed 3/4 of the way there.
Oh, so it was just his body that crossed the finish line?
I don't even know if they got his body back. That's a really good question. I know he got killed in the Philippines after going to multiple islands and almost getting killed each time. The typical day for Ferdinand was discover an island, meet the inhabitants, get greeted with warm, kind regards, do something to piss them off, run to the boat as quickly as possible, go to the next island and repeat.
This guy is like peak white guy house guest.
Oh, 100%. Yes. So we'll get to how Ferdinand got kicked out of the Northern Mariana Islands. But yeah, he'd eventually end up dying in the Philippines a few weeks after this. But so he ends up discovering what would be known as the Mariana Islands when he landed on Guam. The folks of the island gave Magellan and his crew food and water, and in turn, they took one of Magellan's smaller boats to use for a quick fishing trip. In Chamorro culture, private property isn't really much of a thing, and if you took something with the intent to put it to good use and then return it, that's not stealing, because it's not private property, so you're gonna get your boat back.
It's for the greater good. I'm getting fish for y'all.
Exactly. So this concept of honest borrowing confused the Spanish, who really only understood aggressive taking, and a fight broke out. Like many places Magellan would claim, he would be forced into a quick retreat after only a few days. The Spanish would eventually return, set up a garrison at Guam, eviscerated about 90% of the native population thanks to smallpox and other diseases. and then forced everyone in the Mariana Island archipelago to move to Guam to make it easier to subjugate them and indoctrinate them into Roman Catholicism.
This sucks.
It doesn't start well. By the 19th century, the Mariana Islands saw an influx of immigration from the Caroline Islands. And weirdly enough, the Spanish would not try to eradicate Carolinian culture, but that might also have been because Saipan was not doing financially well, and they didn't really have the time. In 1898, America would get its first taste of intercontinental imperialism by declaring war on Spain and attacking their colonies in Cuba and the Philippines. The Spanish-American War is mostly known for being absurdly lopsided in the Americans' favor, resulting in an American victory in a little under 4 months. My personal favorite story from this war is the initial battle in the Philippines, where America had this brand new navy that they just sailed around the world to show off. And they showed up to, I can't remember specifically where, but they start firing off their cannons. And a dude from the Spanish fort gets a couple guys to go into a rowboat to row out to the navy to deliver a letter that says, "We appreciate your 21 gun salute. We would do the same, but we're currently out of gunpowder."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, not great. There was also only one war casualty for the Americans during the battle for the Philippines, and it was a guy who got heat stroke. Yeah. So it was, it kind of makes sense why we pretended that Spain attacked us in Cuba so that we could start the war when we really didn't.
Is this our villain origin story? Like,
remember the main, I'll deviate. So in Cuba, there was a boat that we had in our Navy that was staying there called the USS Maine. And one day it blows up. And so the yellow journalism of William Randolph Hearst, who was really, really aching for America to get into a war and start showing off that we could take stuff over, decides to blame Spain on the Maine exploding. Said it was they went out there, they blew up the ship, and now we have to go to war to take Cuba and the Philippines. What actually happened, from best I can tell, is that we were storing a lot of gunpowder in the bottom of the Maine.
Sure, as you do.
Which can cause a lot of gunpowder dust to kind of float everywhere, so you have a cloud of explosive dust. And then there was a spark, and the Maine exploded on its own. But yeah, we entered into a 4-month war where we ended up taking Cuba and the Philippines as our own nations for quite some time.
And just to clarify, like, obviously our villain origin story is slavery. I mean,
of course.
In terms of like when we went into Iraq and we're like, we'll be done in days, you guys.
No, this is our introduction to the world stage, I think.
Yes,
like we were on NBC, but now BBC has picked us up and we're going international. So like I said, we gained Cuba, the Philippines, but also the island of Guam. As for the rest of the Mariana Islands, Spain would sell them to Germany as part of the German-Spanish Treaty of 1899. America had been offered to take all the islands if they wanted, but really didn't see much beyond Guam that they really wanted, so they didn't see any need to get the rest of the islands.
BOGO, US? Jesus.
I mean, we were so young and immature that we didn't understand what a deal was.
Right, and since then, we've tried to make up for it with mattress sales on every federal holiday.
Yep, we'll get there one day. So now that the archipelago was split between nations, the non-Guam islands would be referred to as the Northern Mariana Islands. I'm sure it had a very long German name, could not find it though. Germany would fold the Mariana Islands into their colony of German New Guinea and pretty much just forgot they owned them for a few decades and just let people live their lives.
Good job, Germany.
Until World War I, when Japan made themselves allies with the Allied power of Britain, which meant that Germany of the Central Powers was now their enemies, which meant that invading all the islands Germany owned was now fair game, which Japan did very easily. And although it wouldn't be that difficult of a task by the end of the war, and Japan had taken the Mariana Islands, the Caroline Islands, the Marshall Islands, and Palau. Following the war, the Treaty of Versailles would give these islands to Japan, and the League of Nations would issue the South Seas Mandate, making Japanese rule over the islands completely official. And they began to really improve the infrastructure everywhere, building roads, buildings, cinemas, entertainment all over the place. They started actually doing the things you're kind of supposed to do in the grand scheme of colonization, I guess. So initially, the Japanese Navy would run everything, but by the 1930s, the colonies had shifted to civilian-run governments. However, when Japan left the League of Nations in 1935, because you couldn't stay in the League of Nations if you declared war and tried to take over the world, and Japan really wanted to do that in 1935,
they really did.
They would begin building up military sites on the islands, making them integral to the eventual expansion of the empire during World War II. Now, America would invade the Mariana Islands on June 15, 1944 during the Battle of Saipan, which resulted in an American victory after 24 days. The battle was most notable for its extremely high level of civilian casualties. Of the 25,000 civilians who lived there, 22,000 would be killed in the fighting or commit suicide. There are a pair of cliffs on the island of Saipan that are most notable for civilians just climbing up and jumping off before the Allies could get there.
That that's heartbreaking.
However, there was one Japanese captain by the name of Sakae Oba who would elude capture and led a resistance squad of 46 soldiers until December 1st, 1945, 3 months after Japan had officially surrendered. Now, he's not like the most famous of the Japanese resistors. I believe the one we all know is a dude who lived in the cave systems of Guam until about the 1970s, who believed the war was going until then.
It's like every 20 years, someone writes a screenplay about like some guy who just like came out of Guam or Vietnam, and it's just like the war is still going on. It's like, no. Or maybe I'm just thinking of an Archer episode, but continue.
Oh yeah, that is the Archer episode. Yeah, it's the whole apocryphal thing of like the Guamanians like sending one person up and yelling from a distance like the war's over, it's cool, and then like getting one or two shots and it was like, all right, I'll see you in a week.
Yeah,
we'll try again next time. We left you some fruit.
How do you still have bullets? My God.
So following the war, the Northern Mariana Islands would change hands one last time. Since the United States was already there, the United Nations decided to assign American responsibility for the islands that they had taken during the war. The Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands was created in 1947. Initially, the U.S. Navy oversaw the area, but in 1951, that responsibility was shifted to the Department of the Interior. And the whole thing was just kind of a clusterfuck of an afterthought for America. The area included a wide expanse of ocean that included 9 different languages and a fuck ton of different cultures. And little was held in common with all these islands except that they're technically kind of near each other, or at least within a rhombus that they placed on the ocean. They're like, yeah, you could do that. That's fine. So America would allow for the previously built Japanese infrastructure to just crumble away, and very little was done to replace it. Also, due to the islands not having much in the way of an economy, at least in a way that could work in a global system, there wasn't much that they could do to improve their financial standing in the world. Within a decade, the movement for independence from the UN Trust was growing. By the late 1960s, the US estimated that the independence movement covered between 10 to 25% of the total population. Despite this, America wouldn't do much to address the concerns of the population and just outright refused any call for independence. But they would offer a compromise. The deal was, if the entire swath of the trust became associated with Hawaii, then eventually Hawaii could annex the trust and you could become a state with Hawaii.
This is so dumb. It's also like, what, thousands of miles? Hundreds of miles?
Easily thousands of miles. 9 different languages, hundreds of cultures, and yeah, it makes less than no sense for this.
We're also talking about Hawaii, who to this day is like, please stop referring to us as a state. We don't want to be a part of you. Yep. We had a queen. We were cool with her.
Yep. Your pineapple barons ruined us.
Yeah.
Please retract as much as possible. So this counteroffer wasn't really seriously considered by the folks in the Pacific Trust, but the folks on the Mariana Islands did have a counter-offer. Instead of staying in the trust, maybe they could just become part of Guam, which was already an American territory by this point, and we could just scoop in a little bit to this territory stuff.
It's totally closer than Hawaii.
Yeah, Guam is literally just south of the Northern Mariana Islands, while Hawaii, thousands of miles, like you fucking said. So it only makes sense to loop them both in. There would be 4 non-binding referendums on the matter between 1958 and 1969, and each vote resulted in the majority of the folks on the Northern Mariana Islands supporting joining Guam by 2-to-1 margins. The thing, though, is Guam was pretty pissed on how they were treated during World War II, because when Japan showed up, they had folks from the Northern Mariana Islands, which they had controlled for a while, go down to Guam and institute kind of a brutal punishment system of control.
Oh.
And it had only been 2 decades, and some people in Guam were still really pissed off about that.
Yeah, that's well within the realm of memory.
Yeah. Guam would have a vote for this in 1969 and voted 60-40 to say, fuck you, we're not letting you join Guam. By the 1970s, the fight to keep the area under American control was dying out. Independence movements worldwide were in full swing, and colonialism was on the way out, at least how we know it. The UN and America would acquiesce to the independence movement, and the various islands were given the green light to start to make plans on what they wanted to do. The Republic of the Marshall Islands and the Federated States of Micronesia would go for independence, which they gained in 1986, and the nation island of Palau would end up getting their own independence in 1994. But the Northern Mariana Islands had a different plan. They figured that there might be more opportunity if they were to strengthen their ties with America and go for territorial status instead. Between 1972 and 1975, the Marianas Political Status Commission would enter talks with America and iron out the details, and this would result in the Northern Mariana Covenant. Signed by Gerald Ford in 1976, the agreement would establish the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, complete with the right of local self-governments, so long as local laws followed the U.S. Constitution, guaranteed protection from America, and granted American citizenship to the entire population. And America also promised a nice little financial package for their newest territory. For the first 7 years, America is going to send $8.25 million for running the new Commonwealth government, $4 million for capital improvement projects, and $1.75 million for an economic development loan fund that would include business and housing. And after this first 7 years, it would be up to the discretion of the U.S. government whether or not to grant another 7 years or just call it quits on that specific financial aid. But also, now that you're a territory, we kind of also want a few places for the military. That's kind of, it's kind of what we do.
I'm hearing this aid package and everything, and I can't help but feel like I am witnessing an 18-year-old sign up for his first credit card.
Yes, because
it's just like, God, what are the interest rates, Marianas?
It is definitely not going to adjust for inflation, I will tell you that.
Oh!
What the American military wants is they want 177 acres on the main island of Saipan, 18 acres from Tinian, which is the second largest populated island. The third and only other populated island is called Rota. But they also wanted the entire island of Farallon de Medina, which they were just going to use as a bombing range.
God damn it.
But the American government would agree to pay $19.5 million to lease this land for 50 years. Now, repeat, inflation does not play into this lease. So to kick things off, the Commonwealth would have $33.5 million, or $174.4 million today. And all they needed was a constitution of their own. Lucky for the Commonwealth, one of the people coming to help curate their founding document is the main character of today's story. Benigno Fitial was born in Saipan in 1945. Like so many folks we talk about, his childhood is a mystery, lost to the sands of time.
Lost to the sea.
He walked out of the ocean at a fine 18. So we could skip to 1964 when he graduates from high school. And then we could skip another 5 years when he's suddenly named the budget analyst for the Trust Territory government. I will stress this, he did not have a college degree when he was given this job.
That's fine, he's going to learn on the job.
Exactly. It seems like that was actually a really common sort of thing, because getting to college when you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is not an easy task for most.
Oh, yeah.
But according to some strong primary sources, Benigno would end up getting his bachelor's degree by 1976. And that would be the year that he would graduate from the University of Guam with a bachelor's in business administration and a focus on business management. And look, I'm sure, you get a job before you've actually studied accounting or budgets or anything like that when you're younger. And especially through the UN, that's kind of, to me, that screams someone who's a prodigy, that they're not just going to fly someone out. But the primary source that I got from Benigno's graduation, it did list who got summa cum laude and cum laude and all of that. And Benny did not even come close.
Oh, dear. Oh.
It's a little confusing how he got the job, but let's just put that aside. We could talk about his financial acumen later. So that being said, by 1976, he had ascended to the rank of vice president of his own political party, the Territorial Party. Now, this party had been founded with the goal of ensuring that the Commonwealth would become its own territory, hence the name. Their rivals, the Popular Party, which I think is cheating, were more focused on reunification with Guam and then pursuing statehood once that goal was complete. Benigno would state that he was against reunification because he felt people were being tricked into joining up with Guam. At the time, Guam had a much higher minimum wage than the Northern Mariana Islands, and a number of Northern Mariana Island citizens had gone there for work and returned home bragging about how much more they got for work there. The Popular Party alluded that if they joined Guam, then naturally they'd be able to get the Guamanian minimum wage. But Benigno was adamant that this would never actually happen and only lead to disappointment, which, citation needed, I guess. I don't know how that would work, but despite losing the battle of what the Northern Mariana Islands would be, the Popular Party would remain its ruling group for quite some time.
Yeah, money in hand, Ben.
Yeah, it's, I will get to, the worst part of their minimum wage, but it was easily less than half of the minimum wage in Guam. So 1976 ends up being a huge year for Benigno, in that he would be elected to serve on the Commonwealth's Constitutional Convention. Specifically, he would be named as the chairman of the Committee of Finance, Local Government, and Other Matters. And I would be super jazzed to be a part of Other Matters, because that is just a swath of power.
Yeah, that's everything.
You could get power hungry with something like that. It just pages of shit that the other committees don't have to touch that you can just go buck wild on. And he would end up having a pretty decent effect on the Constitution. He would personally introduce the article that required compulsory education for youth, and he fought tooth and nail to lower the number of members of the legislature from 50 House reps and 9 senators to 20 House reps and 9 senators. His main argument was that if the 7-year financial agreement that America made was not renewed, they might not be able to continue on with the legislature that large. He would also say this relatively dumb quote, "Pretty soon, we're going to have more legislators than people to represent. This is a very ridiculous proposal." And in the end, he ends up winning that fight. To this day, they still only have 20 House reps and 9 senators.
Gee, come on.
Another argument that came up is that the rate of pay, I believe, was $35,000. And people were like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot more money than most people here make based on the minimum wage. Maybe if you're worried about finances, we should lower that. To which a lot of the people in the Constitutional Convention, who are people who are pretty sure that they were going to be representatives and senators, replied with, well, we have to keep it high. Otherwise, we can't get the best candidates to run.
Yep.
Counterpoint.
Counterpoint. I don't know. Chicago Public Schools still has great teachers, even though they keep financially shitting on them year after year.
Yeah. So one of the more difficult amendments that got introduced that Benigno fought for was Article 12, a complete ban on people not of Northern Mariana Island descent from owning property. There were a couple reasons behind this plan. For one, proponents would note that the Northern Mariana Islands had yet to produce an economy that would be part of the global economics. Eventually, tourism could work, but the infrastructure just wasn't there yet. The only valuable thing they had was land, and even with their small population, they were actively running out of places for people to live and farm. And part of this was due to natural population increase, but in the future this would become exacerbated due to the island chain being chock full of highly active volcanoes.
Oh no.
Since 1981, 3 once populated islands have had to be suddenly evacuated due to imminent eruptions, which is why everyone either lives on Saipan, Tinian, or Rota.
Oh no.
Yeah,
eruptions is it's like the mother nature of eminent domain. It's like you're
really
going
is.
now.
Like, I would like a road full of sharp rocks here.
Yes.
Have fun.
We're gonna put some new lava here.
Oh my god. There's one island in particular, of course I'm blanking, but in 1990 they're like ran to the island and be like, this fucker's gonna blow everyone out now. And then it never did.
Oh no.
And so 6 people against the government's wishes just went back and rebuilt a house. And then it got destroyed by a typhoon.
No.
As of right now, there are 9 people living on the island, but technically they're not there legally, so they're not counted in the census. Also, a fun thing, America no longer has that bombing range island because people started to realize, oh, that's a lot of migratory birds use that island, and you're kind of killing them.
Damn it, the US.
So stop. And they're like, by 2000, they're like, yeah, we're going to stop.
It took until 2000.
I think it took until the 90s, but it took longer than it needed to.
Yeah. We just love bombing in sexy locations.
I know. It's like, don't you want to bomb a paradise that you can't get to on a boat because of sheer rock cliffs?
Oh my God.
Fuck those birds are getting to enjoy that island. I will bomb them and their enjoyment.
Yeah. Quit having sex on that embarkment.
With growing generations.
Stupid turns.
It turns. It's mostly boobies, which I find hilarious.
Those sweet little blue-footed
little bluebies.
Oh.
So that's part of why they're running out of land. Population's growing, volcanoes are taking away islands they could live on. But the other main reason that they're behind this amendment is because they paid pretty close notice as to what happened to Guam when it became a territory. And it's that there was a rush of land speculation from mainland and international investors. This led to a huge burst in housing costs and left many Guamanians out of luck in finding affordable housing. There had already been talks of investors checking out the land, and this felt like the only way to ensure that at bare minimum, locals could buy up the land for development and tourism first. And then when the amendment ran out after 25 years, they could sell then, and you at least have some people who have been able to do well.
Yeah, that's better than most, anti-gentrification awareness.
Right. The problem, though, is that many lawyers wondered if this would butt up against the U.S. Constitution's right to equal protection, which honestly, it probably is. And it wouldn't help that Benigno would refer to the amendment as, quote, protective discrimination. Like, this guy is not great with words.
Oh
And
no.
but yeah, it makes perfect sense. But it's also like if you're becoming a territory, that's rule one. You have to follow the U.S. Constitution. You can't change it. But resident Commissioner Irwin D. Canham stated that he personally didn't really see the amendment being an issue, and that the Ford administration was very eager to just approve the Northern Mariana Island Constitution that was already in existence. And in the end, the amendment would be allowed. And like I said, it was initially meant to exist for only 25 years, but it is still in effect to this day. If you are a mainland American, you cannot buy property in the Northern Mariana Islands.
Good for Mariana Islands.
So, following ratification of the Constitution by a popular vote of 93%, Benigno went on the normal route that you would expect and became the news director for the government-run radio station KJQR. I've seen it described sort of like an NPR, but based on the stuff that I've read about the government, it was probably more of a propaganda outlet than anything.
Nice.
He would hold this position for a few years before being elected to the Northern Mariana Island House of Representatives in 1980. And this is usually the part where I like to talk about people's campaigns and the things they did. Not a lot of information on this, so we're going to be skimming past some of these elections for a bit. At this time, he was still a member of the Territorial Party, but the Popular Party had chosen instead to merge and become members of the Democratic Party. Republicans would not exist on the island until 1982, when the Territorial Party decided they're going to merge and become Republicans. What then follows is 4 years of Benigno doing the job and being boring. I read so many boring fucking articles of him being like, yeah, we're going to make sure that slot machines aren't allowed in Saipan, and we're going to make sure that tourism companies don't get kickbacks from local businesses, and we're going to write banking regulations because that's becoming important because people are pretending like they're opening banks here when they're not.
These are good matters to...
Right. Good, boring matters. I am bored. How dare you? This is meant to be entertaining for me, not building your territory, sir. Your commonwealth. Sorry.
Is this the cache of articles you found at the last minute and you're like, we need to reschedule because I'm not going to be able to go through this?
No.
Okay.
No, so
that's the twist that's coming. Okay.
Yeah, bit inside baseball. I was relatively ready to do this episode next week, and then I got buried in sources. We'll get to those. I have a whole paragraph on it, so we'll get there.
Buried in sources would make a great country music title.
Oh my god! I mean, buried in sources kind of feels like a Pavement or Spoon knockoff.
Ooh,
like we were almost big in 2003.
Like an album name.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yes. Oh man.
Buried in Sources, the latest album by Spoon.
Oh my god. I gotta go buy that. So he ends up winning in 1980, immediately becomes House Minority Leader. But in 1982, the GOP takes the minority and he becomes Speaker of the House. Much of his time is spent doing dull shit like I said, banning slot machines and all that stuff. About the only spicy action during his time was when Congressman Mo Udall of Arizona got really mad that the Northern Mariana Islands hadn't paid the IRS any taxes for 3 years and hadn't been collecting taxes from their citizens. This had been a huge issue, is that the Northern Mariana Islands did not like the IRS tax code, and despite being ordered that's what you have to do, just decided not to.
I feel like the citizens of the Northern Marianas Island are already themselves like really great Americans.
Yeah,
just like fuck these taxes. No.
Let's see if we can get away with it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Technically, they kind of did. It seems like the issue got settled. I couldn't find any more news about it. I think they played we're just so new about this. We just didn't know. Oh, could you forgive us, please? I added the W because you know I'm sorry.
We're just a simple territory out here.
Guam's next door. Like, you believe this fucking shit? We lost our fucking land to investors and they're pulling this fucking shit.
Do you see what they pay their representatives?
Just going over to Wake Island being like, you fuckers hear about this. Running out of populated territories to name. I think that's all of them.
Also, just as an apology, because I've already done it once, I will probably refer to Northern Marianas Islands as Marianos, which for those who don't live in Chicago is a local grocery store.
Oh my god, the Marianos Islands.
They used to be Marianos Islands.
And then they started cutting like all the quality shit.
Yeah, now you can't get a glass of wine and walk around the store anymore.
You can't do that anymore?
You probably can, but I feel like I'm never there for like their whatever happy hours.
Oh my god, that's bullshit. And just a heads up, because this is a mistake I made a lot in my youth. It's Mariana, as in singular. It's
See that? No, and that's just my Midwestern terroir of adding an S to anything.
Yep. Yeah, and it is very close to the Mariana Trench, so I think that's kind of how the names got conjugated.
See, that's going to help me. That'll help me. Okay, back in business.
But when I talk about these people, the majority of the time it's kind of like listening to dubstep. I'm just waiting for the beat to drop. I know it's coming. They're just like, no, dubstep is an art form. I don't think you appreciate it. It's beautiful. It's loud.
Turn down for what?
Oh my god, yes. That was crunk. Different. But yeah, and so I'm just sitting here waiting for like Benigno to decide to take a heel turn or to find out who he truly is, because there's just not a lot of news sources that I can back things up with, and I just got a feeling. I got a feeling something's gonna fucking happen. And I finally get it in 1984, shortly after the Democrats had taken control of the Commonwealth legislature and Benigno became the House Minority Leader for the second time. A complaint would be filed in the U.S. Congress by Democrat Antonio Juan Pat, who is Guam's non-voting congressional delegate. Now, a lot of these territories have delegates who go to Congress. They're not allowed to vote on anything, but they are allowed to introduce legislation and be part of debates and can be on committees. And so Antonio Juan Pat had gotten word that the Northern Mariana Islands had passed a bill prior to the new Democratic government being sworn in. And the bill stated that every senator would get $100,000 of discretionary spending, which means they have $100,000 to use on whatever the fuck they want.
$100,000?
$100,000 on 9 senators. Una, the budget for the whole Senate that year was $1.9 million. 900,000 of that is going to 9 senators, of which 7 are Republicans, 1 is still a territorial party holdout, and 1 is a Democrat.
And it's just petty cash, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. You could spend it on like, oh, I need to buy pencils for my people. I need to get a new ergonomic office chair. There's a Coupe de Ville I really love that'd be a great company car. Yeah, and it was just a weird enough bill that seemed like poorly written and shady enough that the Department of the Interior agreed with Representative Juan Pat and said, yeah, I think we need to look into this.
Yeah.
So the Department of the Interior sends their own guy to Saipan to look at things. The Northern Mariana House decides they're going to begin their own inquiry led by committee chairman and Republican Joseph Inos. And Benigno took this as an opportunity to clear his name because, oh yeah, he wrote the bill.
There it is.
Yeah. And so he begins trying to clear his name by writing furious letters to Joseph as often as he could. First off, he was pissed off that Inos had subpoenaed all of his former employees and stated, quote, I find your report chronology filled with character assassination and innuendo, which is most unfair to those individuals involved with the conduct of legislative business during the third legislature. Also, he added that if Inos hated the bill so much, then maybe he should have been there to vote against the bill instead of being, I don't know, on Christmas vacation. Inos would reply to these very strong letters by saying, quote, this is a clear indication of guilt feelings.
Call it out, sir! Call it out!
He also assured that none of Benigno's former employees are being considered as criminals, but are just being asked to clarify some behind-the-scenes details that they needed. He would then finish by saying, quote, we are concerned about possible criminal acts or violations conspired by some irresponsible people calling themselves adults. Yet they are so clumsy that they spilled the milk and are now scared and crying over it like a helpless child.
What a bird! Oh my god!
It's beautiful and I love it. This is bipartisan politics. A Republican yelling at a Republican. One guy bad with words, the other is like crying over spilled milk. I can do better.
Yeah.
Let me have a pass.
I'm gonna paint a picture.
I will destroy you with a portrait. And of course, Benigno had to reply to this because he can't have this guy have the upper hand. And he stated that the subpoenas for his former staffers was unconstitutional, claiming the Commonwealth Constitution gave members of the legislature and their aides immunity from questions about anything that happened outside the legislature.
Oh man, this guy is Trumping decades before Trump.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know how he went. When was he born? 45? How he went 40 years of his life not snapping until fucking now. It almost feels like this was his first attempt at a grift, and he's so mad it didn't work. He would also note that this should be a House matter, and that the Senate who's running the investigation should mind their own goddamn business. Inos replied to this by simply stating that they might be looking into perjury charges against some of the witnesses they subpoenaed.
Oh no!
Yep.
This
The Senate
is not good!
Stop writing letters. Just stop. That's why you get a lawyer and you let them do the talking.
Oh my God.
You can yell at home, buy a bird and yell at it.
Stop putting it into physical evidence.
Right? Like, it's simple shit. So the Senate investigation would stall after the death of one of the lead attorneys for the Senate. But the Department of the Interior would release their findings 2.5 months later. The audit found that, yes, this is weird. They found that the whole purpose of the bill was to essentially gut the Senate spending for the next year by placing it within the hands of members who are retiring or had lost elections. Also, the money was clearly misused. The department found that cash had been used to lease offices despite senators already having free space in the legislature complex to use, furnishing these extra offices with whatever they wanted, hiring extra staff, and buying themselves vehicles. These purchases also included a $1,400 air conditioner, an $11,000 car, which I assumed was going to be a lot of money, but is actually below average for the time, and about $60,000 to create a cable TV network on the island of Tinian. It was also found that 5 of the 9 senators refused $250,000 of the allotted money. Essentially, you got a bulk of $500,000 at the beginning, and then there was like a second payment period where you got the other $500,000. And these 5 senators ended up refusing $250,000 because if they hadn't, the Senate would have had to have shut down for the rest of the year due to being out of money.
Oh my God, they're hoovering up all the cash already.
And this would result in no punishments whatsoever. Essentially, the Department of the Interior was like, yeah, that's weird, right? All right, I'm going home.
Going to my air-conditioned office now.
It was real fucked up. Nice car, bye. By 1986, the Republicans would retake control of the House, and for the first time, Benigno would serve as Senate Majority Leader, but now he is Vice Speaker of the House. So, he learned a lot of lessons. You can do shit, you won't get punished, and then you'll get a raise and a promotion. His time as Speaker would be more true to his previous form, just kind of sitting back, doing his job, and barely ever making it into the regional news. And I have no idea why, but after serving this term, Benigno decided not to run for re-election. Instead, he would dive into multiple business opportunities. Now, I can't find specific dates that he held these positions, but the list of jobs that he held were Special Consultant to L&T Corporation, President of Century Insurance Corporation, President of Century Travel Corporation, President of Consolidated Transportation Services Incorporated, President of Pacific Oriental Incorporated, and President of Home Improvement, which... I don't know.
Like the Tim Allen show?
Yes,
good for him.
He got all the syndication rights to Home Improvement in the Northern Pacific. So these jobs really didn't get him that noticed, but the one that would get him some acclaim was his time at a company called Tan Holdings, which at the time was the largest garment company in the Northern Mariana Islands. The company was founded in 1991. And funny enough, the exact same year that it was founded, Benigno became the spokesman for the Garment Industry Association. And funny enough, he also lobbied the state legislature to exempt garment workers from minimum wage laws. He would state that the law was important to keep the NMI garment business competitive with foreign companies because, there's sweatshops everywhere. And if we start paying them minimum wage, no one's going to buy from us anymore.
Sir, you're in the middle of the Pacific.
Also, you're in America now. Sir, this is America.
Yeah.
That's the deal that you signed, sir. At the time, the average rate of pay per hour was $2.15. The federal minimum wage at the time was $4.25.
Oh, come on.
And the bill to keep garment workers minimum wage exempt would pass within a week with no public hearing. And it was alluded by Speaker Pedro Guerrero that the bill helped improve the chances of continued work for the employees, so they better not complain about it. Because if you do, I don't know what we can do about your continued work.
This is so terrible.
Less than a year later, the New York Times would look into Tan Holdings and found that employees worked 7-day weeks, 12-hour shifts, and were still paying sub-minimum wage. Much of the work came from a subcontractor for Levi Strauss, who would end up being fined $9 million, which is paid to the 1,200 employees of Tan, which means they got $7,500 each. If I remember correctly, that $9 million fine was the largest that a garment company had ever paid in fines to the Department of Labor.
Jesus.
And a week after they passed that minimum wage exemption bill, the Commonwealth GOP made Benigno the party chairman.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
This is some hard ass grifting.
It's not fucking great, and it gets worse. So following all of this, Benigno isn't heard from much at all. But by 2000, he had that itch. The need to get back into the spotlight, get back into fucking politics. And weirdly enough, I can't find any info on this comeback, but he would end up getting right back into the Northern Mariana House again. And as his welcome back, they made him Speaker of the House. Again, he would spend most of his tenure in the background, but he would get pushed to the forefront in 2001. Once again, the issue was minimum wage, and it had become a bit of a pet project for Democratic Congressman George Miller of California to ensure that every territory was paying the federal minimum wage.
Ooh.
He had been working on a bill for years to finally get the territories to accept minimum wage, but was often met with resistance from House Republicans. And Benigno would personally write a letter to Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott, imploring him to shoot down the bill, claiming that the doubling of minimum wage to the federal rate that was now at $6.15 an hour would destroy the Northern Mariana Islands economy. And sure, the NMI government has been paying millions to lobbying firms to keep their minimum wage abysmally low, but no reason to bring that up in a Senate debate.
You can find the money. Just everyone in your government is making out like a bandit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Garment Association that he was the spokesman of made a very concerted effort to go to as many Republican congressmen as they could to ensure that this never got passed. And to just be a little extra petty, Benigno also wrote into the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, accusing them of using propaganda made by the Department of the Interior and the Clinton administration to make the Northern Mariana Islands look bad for paying garment workers so little and forcing them to work in sweatshop conditions. And Miller's latest attempt would not pass. If I read correctly, the Northern Mariana Islands would not be subject to federal minimum wage until 2009. And after a fight that tough, you gotta feel a little invincible. Like you could really do just about anything. And in 2001, Benigno would make two bold fucking moves. For one, he announced that he was running for governor of the Northern Mariana Islands. And two, he was leaving the Republican Party. He was going to make his own political party. Now, all signs seem to point that Fitial did this not so much out of disappointment in the GOP, since it'd kind of been over a decade since his Republican allies chastised him for his weird $100,000 grift bill, but is more as a guarantee that he wouldn't have to win a primary to race for the office. In 2001, he would create the Covenant Party, named for the document that established the Northern Mariana Islands as a territory with American association. And as for what the party believed in, so Wikipedia describes them sort of as like a big tent populist party, meaning that it had a ton of varying views and sought the will of the people. Nice, vague, welcome home shit.
Yeah, who can't get behind that?
Which, in my opinion, makes the Covenant Party more of just a party of whether or not you support Benigno Fitial. And now for a bit of an intermission, because sourcing this shit has been a delight. So up until the year 2000, the primary source out there is the Pacific Daily News out of Guam. But post 2000, a lot of they seem to kind of back off the finer details of Benigno's work, but do pop up from time to time. But luckily, we have two other papers from the Northern Mariana Islands coming in to help out here. The first we have is the Marianas Variety, who's a member of the Associated Press and Reuters. Their competition is the Saipan Tribune, which is owned by Pacifica Publications and Printing, an affiliate of Tan Holdings. So you have one paper that is very much professional and affiliated with high-ranking folks, and then you have the Saipan Tribune, which is a propaganda outlet that does everything they fucking can to make Benigno sound like just king shit a fuck mountain.
Amazing.
And so we can get some details from Benigno's campaign from them, but it's a very good lesson in understanding the reasoning behind sourcing. Not all sourcing is created equal. And there was a college class that I took back in the day where we were covering the rise of Islam, and you could get primary sources from people who were around Muhammad, but after the schism, after he died, and the thing that split Sunni and Shia sects within Islam, you start to get differing opinions from different people, and you realize, oh, this is just propaganda. This is just people talking shit about how great their favorite person is. And yeah, you can get some information from this, but it's not clear truth.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting here. We're getting some information, but thankfully it is very clear when shit is lies.
Amazing.
So after that being said, they were there at the kickoff of the Covenant Party. On February 2nd, 2001, Benigno would state, quote, "I am running for governor because, like you, I believe that we have the tools to make our economy stronger. I'm running because I believe we have the tools necessary to ensure that our education system is stronger. I'm announcing my candidacy because, as far as I can tell, the one thing we don't have is a candidate who can take the dreams of the Commonwealth and turn them into a reality. I believe I am the candidate to take our hopes for a brighter future and turn them into a reality." Or as The Simpsons said, turning to the future. If there was a drinking game for this, drink every time that Benigno has no idea how to make a good speech or say anything.
This guy has just come up. That's
Like,
what I'm feeling.
right. I want to know why. Like, why does everyone like this guy? Because it's clearly not speaking words.
Yeah, and it's not like throwing out money and he's not spreading the wealth in any way.
And part of it is I do have to bring up a third source that I have not been using that much. Around 2001, a new website popped up by the name of saipansucks.com.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so it's already pretty biased. It was a website that it was more like a sort of blog that the guy who wrote it just kept adding on to. So it would just be paragraphs on paragraphs that turned into a bit of a screed.
Don't you miss early internet?
Yeah, it's the peak early internet. But essentially, whenever something new came up that wasn't reported by the newspapers, they would add in just a whole section. It would end up being quoted by a lot of newspapers, mainly the quote, "Nepotism rules on the islands. Fueled by money paid by American taxpayers and diverted to the far-off territory, politicians run for office primarily for the sake of being in a position to appoint their relatives to high-paying sinecures?
Senator's
Offices.
sick.
There it is.
Oh.
Quit using fancy words, you jerk. But the website would often accuse a lot of people in power of corruption, racism, nepotism, jury rigging, worker exploitation, employment discrimination, and mismanagement of the tourism industry.
Oof.
Yeah. It got to the point that in 2001, the Marianas government fought like hell to find out who this person was and would spend 8 years trying to find out who the author was to bring them to some kind, I don't know, justice.
Yeah, did they ever find out?
Never did. To this day, no one knows who wrote Saipan Sucks. Around 2009, they would decide to quit updating it. I believe mostly they were just depressed that nothing was changing and alluded that they just retired to Long Island.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So check out the new website, Long Island Sucks.
Yeah, which is the other. God damn it! It took me a second. But even this doesn't really apply to Fitial. Fitial is not like a big family name in the Northern Mariana Islands. It's like Sanpan or Guerrero or Palacios. There are some big family names that almost every election you're going to see one of those families running for office. And Fitial just kind of came out of nowhere, just as like this business darling that I think it's entirely just like a few business people really liked him and could throw money behind him and make him seem like a bigger name, as well as an outsider to this sort of familial nepotism power brokership that had been going on. So among the praise of huge waves of supporters who showed up to see him give this speech and how he's like the biggest boy in all the land and he has like the coolest toys and his dad worked for Nintendo, the Saipan Tribune would finally state some of his gubernatorial plans. And this included commissioning a new economic development panel with the goal of attracting 5 new major businesses within the first year, which would create 2,000 new jobs, institute a tax holiday for all businesses who had invested in the Northern Mariana Island, a tax credit program for landlords with the goal of lowering rent by $100 a month for tenants, because yes, we know that's what landlords do when they get a tax break. Float $55 million in bonds to pay the $20 million in retroactive salary owed to the government employees, and $35 million in land purchases owed to private property owners.
Wow. So just fuck the people. I got's mine.
Yeah, they were in severe fucking debt. And I guess floating bonds, why the fuck not? And finally, modernize all public schooling. He didn't really give any definition as to what this meant, but
or how.
Yeah, it's just I will give him credit for this. Benigno was a very strong proponent for public school. I never really got details as to why, but his whole thing was that if you educate the populace, the economy will flourish. Which not wrong.
Yeah.
The party's overall goals would involve, quote, striving for a stable economy, new investments, and business-friendly policies. Moreover, the Covenant Party focuses on common sense solutions, and they are all for results-oriented actions and the strengthening of alliances amongst public, private, non-governmental organizations and other governments and bringing in more investments. It's Benigno can't write. He's illiterate. He can write, but this is first draft shit. This is
no, and it has all of the bullet points and eloquence of a Chamber of Commerce website. Like that's the energy I'm getting is like small town Chamber of Commerce, but it's like, dude, why are you here? Stop this.
It's a lot like sketchy nonprofit mission statements.
Ooh,
so
it's giving bad NGO.
You're gonna get a tax write-off. Who knows for how long? A month later, Benigno would name Public School System Commissioner Rita Inos. Inos is another very big family name. You might remember from the guy who took Benigno to task during the $900,000 thing.
Indeed.
So this is a different Inos who loves Benigno. So
there's one in every family.
Yeah. And so, yeah, he chooses Rita Inos as his running mate. But if you're worried about the real reason the Covenant Party was suddenly showing up and getting glowing press by one of the two Commonwealth newspapers, well, you'd be in the same company as the Commonwealth GOP. GOP Chairman Joseph Reyes would make the claim that special interests had pushed Benigno into running for office, and that if he won, he would be beholden to them throughout his entire tenure. And to respond to these accusations, the Saipan Times interviewed Willie Tan, the owner of Tan Holdings Corporation, which must have been a huge get for them.
Huge.
Willie would say that it was short-sighted to use someone's business experience against a candidate, and that what Reyes was calling special interests is just business, yo. We're not special interests, we just underpay people to make clothes.
We're just interested in getting more money.
We're just a small yellow journalism newspaper trying to get by paying people as little as fucking possible.
As little as, like, we wouldn't pay them at all if we could get away with it.
It's an honor to work here, and they know it. And sure, it's kind of weird that Benigno's campaign is kicking off right after the biggest threat to Willie Tan having to pay minimum wage and treating his employees like actual people. But if you make that connection there, just being divisive, Una. What's wrong with you? So yeah, if anything solidifies that the Saipan Times is going to act as Willie Tan's personal proto-Twitter, this is it. But with the exception of 2 Pacific Daily News articles, they're the only source that I can actually get information from for this particular campaign. Which is, kind of a double bummer due to archived articles about the 2001 gubernatorial election just kind of disappearing in October, even from the Saipan Tribune. It kind of feels like by that point they realized they're not going to win, so why waste time?
Oh.
At that time, GOP nominee Juan Babada was favored so heavily to win that no one really bothered to even cover the election. Babada would end up winning with a landslide of 44.6%, but what was surprising was that Benigno finished in second with 25.5%. Equally as surprising had to have been that the Covenant Party won a seat in the House as well as the Senate in their first ever campaign run.
What?
But since he didn't run for re-election, Benigno was back in the private sector. And instead of returning to Tan Holdings, he would slide into a dual position, this time as president and board member of the Bank of Saipan. Now, this isn't a completely unheard of move after gubernatorial loss. Our best buddy, Buddy Roemer, did the exact same thing when he lost. But the problem is that Benigno walked straight into being a side character into one of the biggest scandals in the history of the Northern Mariana Islands. In 2001, investor and businessman Bert Montgomery made his way to Saipan with his business partner, Deshaun Burkick. The men were fresh off of running their first ever bank of the Caribbean island nation of Grenada, and they were ready to expand. The thing, though, is the Bank of Saipan wasn't really up for sale. But as the old saying goes, everything has a price. And if you're gonna swing big, then why not just go straight to the dude who has the most shares in the bank? The pair would get a meeting with the bank CEO and board chairman, Tomas B. Alden. Tomas had worked with the Division of Revenue and Tax during the Trust government period and was later promoted Director of Finance when the Commonwealth started. By 1997, he had become chair of the Board of Public Lands, and at the same point, he became CEO of the Bank of Saipan. Over the next 4 years, he would increase his sharehold to have a basic majority in the bank, meaning that if Bert and Deshaun wanted him to sell, the bank was essentially all theirs. Plus, if they offered a good enough price, they could probably get other people on the board to sell as well. So they approached Tomas with the highest offer they could manage. They would buy out every share that he had for $20 million. Now, this offer would be noted as, quote, highly inflated compared to the actual worth of the bank.
Oh boy.
So Thomas quickly agreed, and the board voted in favor of the sale in May of 2001. The only stipulation is that the bank had to place a moratorium on high-value loans until the sale went through, and the moratorium would be broken nearly immediately. Montgomery and Burkick would begin issuing themselves insider loans.
Now, oh my God.
Insider loans are when people who work for the bank get loans from the bank that they work for. In Una, they are not illegal. The only way you can get them legally, though, is you have to give an employee a loan with the same rates that any customer could get, which I imagine you could probably go around that being like, oh, we gave this one customer 0.001% interest and infinite money. So I guess, have fun.
Right. It's like, no, we're planning on rolling out our new interest rate program, so we're going to test it out on this here employee.
Exactly. So the thing, though, is employees at the bank, I can't really tell if they hadn't been given the update on the loan moratorium or if they were just like, oh, these are the guys who own the bank, so clearly it's fine, and just started issuing these loans for them.
Totally. It's like, what? I'm going to get fired over like a misunderstanding? No, give them the friggin' loan.
Exactly. Fucking exactly. So, despite this happening, the board did not intervene at any point. It seems that they just kind of assumed that things were just fine and they were really psyched about the new owners possibly buying out their shares as well. So, I guess they probably just didn't want to rock the boat and were just hoping to get that $20 million themselves. And like the good dudes they were, they also started to offer loans to other people during this moratorium period. The most egregious loan went to a dude named Michael Wilson, a notorious con artist out of Texas. And they gave this guy a loan of $5 million, which he then used to buy two failing credit card companies from an Ohio-based company called CNG Financial. And with these new companies, Wilson started issuing his own loans from the Bank of Saipan without having people prove they had collateral or good credit.
Oh my God. All of this is terrible, but I am truly enjoying the Rube Goldberg drifting.
It's wild. Like, I hate that this always goes back to bank fraud. It's become a fucking theme recently. When we do the bingo cards, bank fraud has to be there.
It's almost like we need more bank renovate. What is that word again?
Oh, government-owned banks, like public banks. Let the U.S. Postal Service be banks again.
I do want that. Oh.
By February of 2002, which is, let me do the math, 8 months after they had bought the bank, one member of the board finally just started to sense that something's kind of weird. I should maybe look into this. And that board member was Benigno Fitial. And he did the one thing that literally any member of the board should have done before approving the sale. He did a Google search. Or actually, no, it was 2001, so it was probably more like a Yahoo or an Excite search.
Yeah, he did an Alta Vista search.
He Alta Vista it, yeah. Yes. And nearly immediately, he found out that Burt Montgomery and Dushan Burkich weren't exactly who they claimed to be.
For one thing, Burt Montgomery is absolutely a Simpsons joke.
Oh my God. Like, it sounds like the draft you get before Jackie Daytona.
Yes.
So the one truth they did tell is that they did create the first International Bank of Grenada in 1996. What they didn't say, though, is that it was a Ponzi scheme.
Oh, no!
For those of you who don't know, a Ponzi scheme is when you put in your money for an investment, you're promised wealth and riches.
Yes.
And then you get those wealth
of investment.
Yeah, and you get those wealth and riches, and it's wonderful. But it turns out it wasn't because of the investments that were made on your behalf. It's because they got other people to invest in those riches, and you got the money that was invested, and it just kind of keeps going that way. They're not actually investing money, they're just rubing people until the number gets big enough that they can just grab everything and go. And funny enough, almost no one grabs everything and goes.
Yeah, it's slippery bag of marbles there.
Right. It's simple math. Like, you can extrapolate at what point a Ponzi scheme is going to get out of control. And it blows my mind how people just don't bail. And so, Montgomery and Burkich, they bailed. They actually bailed in time. In the year 2000, they would end up leaving with $170 million.
That's so much money.
The bank owed $473 million in bills and...
No.
Yeah.
Grenada.
So they just skipped town and got the fuck out, and then immediately went to Saipan to buy the Bank of Saipan and keep this thing going. Now, Benigno called up Tomas and told him everything that he had discovered, to which Tomas said, and I'm paraphrasing, "That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Tomas, quit sucking at the teat of whatever is happening and get your ass in gear."
I mean, this response was enough for Benigno to immediately call the FBI and then the rest of the board. And thanks to Montgomery and Burkich not being particularly careful with their crime this time around, the FBI was able to arrest them in 2 weeks later on charges of conspiring to defraud a bank of $6.6 million. But Burt and Dushan weren't the only people getting arrested. Tomas Alden would also get rung up on the same charges, mainly because when the pair of con artists first came to him with this oversized offer, they also promised him kickbacks to any of their schemes and an increase in pay if he stayed on as bank president.
What?
So he was in on this from day one.
So in on it.
So despite all these high-profile arrests and $6.6 million being gone, the board promised everyone that everything is fine. The bank is working on financing to keep everything solvent, which, I probably should have mentioned earlier. The bank is not FDIC insured.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, so FDIC insurance guarantees that if your bank goes under, your money is insured by the federal government. And if this bank is not paying into that, that money's in the ether. It's gone. It's in Cincinnati.
But why isn't it? If this is like part America, sort of.
It costs money to pay into it, I assume. That's my best guess.
Yeah.
So the Bank of Saipan, the largest bank in the Commonwealth, if it goes under, thousands of people are going to go broke in one fell swoop. So this charade would last for a couple months of like, everything's fine, don't worry about it. But on April 29th, 2002, Governor Juan Vabada would tell the Marianas Variety that things were in fact not fine with the bank. His exact words were that the bank was, quote, unstable and in trouble, which led a lot of people that night to be like, hey, I think we need to go to the bank tomorrow.
Oh no. Yeah, it's like the bank president has said no worries, but there are in fact worries.
There's some kid yelling about a tuppence and the bank will give it back. I don't know. I just want to start a riot.
Everything's in black and white.
That bird lady's just causing problems.
I keep hearing a bell.
I think we've mixed movies, but I love it.
I think we have too.
I'm doing Mary Poppins. You're doing It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes, definitely. Because this is America, Dusty.
You're right. You're fucking right. I gotta revoke my own citizenship. And so when the people got there the next morning, they found two things. One, the bank is closed. And two, it's now surrounded by cops.
Uh-oh.
So
That's
essentially,
never a good look.
The bank had gone into receivership, which is a court-appointed tool that can assist creditors to recover funds in default and can help troubled companies avoid bankruptcy. The other thing with receivership is that a receiver has to be put in charge to ensure that things don't fall into bankruptcy, and the receiver acts as a person sort of above the bank hierarchy. He can make decisions beyond the board, beyond the president, because more than likely they're the people who fucked up to begin with.
Yeah.
The Commonwealth would select attorney Randall Fennell to be the receiver and to lead the bank out of imminent bankruptcy, and the board immediately got to work suing the fuck out of Fennell. This seemed to be based on taking offense to Fennell calling the Bank of Saipan a, quote, failed institution. And if there's one thing Benigno does not like, it's being told he's done something wrong. Benigno would end up resigning from the board and as president, as well as a few other board members who followed him. And this is based entirely on Fennell not immediately being removed when they said he should be. Also, they would go to a lawyer who was one of the co-founders of the bank to represent them in any charges going forward.
This is just like total family affair.
Mm-hmm. So the former board members would make the claim that Fennell lacked the impartiality to make proper decisions for the bank, which, and this is just my opinion, I think means entirely that Randall Fennell isn't friends with any of us, and fuck that. While Fennell was trying to get the bank reopened, the lawyers for the former board had other plans. On May 17th, they would arrange for employees of the bank to picket outside and claim that Fennell hadn't paid them since the bank closed to the public, and as retaliation, they would not be showing up on May 20th, the date that Fennell promised the bank would reopen. The protest was mentioned positively in the Saipan Times, but the Marianas Variety had a bit of a different take. After speaking to employees who had protested, they found that many were worried that if they didn't join the protest, that the remaining board members who were friendly to those who had quit would have them fired. The Marianas Variety also contacted bank COO Thomas Schoen and found that many employees had in fact not been paid. But this was because after the bank closed, many employees just didn't show up for work.
Oh, so yeah, what? You're going to get paid for the hours you didn't work?
I have two theories on this. I'm sure some of them were just like, fuck this, I'm not going back. I think others just assumed that since the bank was closed, they didn't have to go to work.
Yeah.
And a number found out that Thomas Schoen had actually been doing all of their jobs during this month-long period and had been the one person holding things afloat.
What?
Which led a couple to burst into tears over the work that he had been doing, and a larger group going to the paper anonymously saying that they were embarrassed to have ever participated in this to begin with.
Oh my gosh. God, this is just such a cock up.
The bank would in fact reopen on the 20th with limited hours. Lines were understandably long, but Fennell's plans and hard work were able to pull the Bank of Saipan from the brink of bankruptcy, and it's still running to this day. Not only that, not a single cent of customer money would be permanently lost.
What?
So one of the things I found with this is the Bank of Saipan was the primary lending institution for Filipino and Chinese workers who had come to the Northern Mariana Islands to seek work, despite it being really dog shit. And so a lot of them had to go full month without sending money back to their families, with complete question as to whether they didn't have money to buy food, to go back. There were a number of businesses that nearly failed during this period. So, I mean, Fennell being able to pull this bank out of bankruptcy is just an astounding feat. But yeah, I think it speaks very highly to his work ethic to be able to do that in a month and succeed. As for Montgomery, Burkitch, and Alden, they would all be found guilty on various wire fraud and conspiracy charges. Montgomery got 20 years, Alden got 10, and Burkitch would commit suicide in prison before sentencing began.
Oh.
As for Benigno, he would shift the lawsuit focus from Fennell to C&G Financial, who's the company that got the $5 million for those two shitty credit card companies. And we're essentially suing them to try to get the money back. The case would be held in Abilene, Texas, and the C&G lawyers asked Fennell to take the stand, which was a mistake, because they were able to get him to admit a lot of not great stuff. For one, in a court of law, they were able to get him to admit that shareholders of the bank got to share a $1 million dividend after the sale. They also got him to admit that he hadn't been to a single board meeting between May 2001 and February 2002, also known as the entire time the bank was being conned.
That's a bad look.
And finally, he had to admit that the board had no clue 30 insider loans had been made during this time.
Jeez.
Benigno would argue that no one looked into anything because Tomas was just so trusted by the community, and that insider loans had always been a common practice at the bank and it never caused problems before, so why would they worry now?
It's just business. It's how business is done.
But C&G would make the point that, it's not our fault that you didn't do your due diligence on who you sold the bank to. So why is it our fault that we got the money?
Boom.
Hilariously enough, after embarrassing Benigno on the stand, C&G would settle out of court 2 days after for an undisclosed amount.
Oh, okay. All right.
It honestly sounded like they just wanted to embarrass everyone involved for even doing this and then be like, we had our fun. Go home. Don't come to Cincinnati.
As someone with her own incredibly petty moments, I appreciate that.
Right? Boomers have always talked about how much they hate lawyers. I consistently find lawyers to be hilarious and amazing in everything they do. They're always my favorite character on crime dramas. It's just...
Yes.
As for Alden, he is currently out of prison, and as of 2015, he still owes the Bank of Saipan $5.6 million in restitution.
Christ.
They're probably never going to see it from him.
No.
But despite courtroom embarrassment and allowing the biggest scandal in the Commonwealth's history, things weren't over for Benigno Fitial's political career. In fact, the Covenant Party was on the verge of a rare third-party breakthrough. A breakthrough of complete power of the Commonwealth where they lived, which we're going to talk about next week.
What?
Benigno, he's not done criming. Crimes are gonna keep coming, motherfuckers.
He's gonna keep criming?
Look, you can't stop criming. If you've been caught twice in a crime, you can't just stop.
Can't stop criming.
Look, it's like doing bathtub heroin. You know you're gonna get caught and you've lost your security deposit, but it's already made. What are you gonna do?
The bathtub's right there.
Right? Look, if they didn't want me to make heroin in the bathtub, then they shouldn't have given me a jet tub.
Dusty, how do you make bathtub heroin?
I was gonna ask you.
Bathtub gin? I mean,
that makes more sense, especially if you have the jets. It can swirl it. I don't know. You need a heating component, I think.
Where are you buying the poppies?
I'm just going to Einstein Bagels and scraping.
Oh no. Boo.
I'm going over to Britain during Memorial Day services and just taking people's lapels. It's a real low budget affair.
Damn it.
That's a good moment to leave on, right?
Yep.
Yeah, how do you feel about our friend Benigno so far?
He's so enigmatic. Yeah, there's not a lot grounding him aside from just every so often kind of popping up with a third party and then grifting a bunch.
Right. It's like, I'm so used to, a Lyndon LaRouche type is going to say things that are really fun and weird.
Yeah.
But he's so bad at public speaking and public writing. And just, we are going to get one good quote from him next week. I promise you that. It's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard anyone say.
Love it.
It's dumber than the internet's a series of tubes, which with that I at least get what Don Young was saying. I see where he's going. As someone who is not internet savvy, that's not the worst guess. But we'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah, that's the origin story of Benigno Fitial. And next week, oh my God, we're going to talk about just his villain rise.
Yikes. Yeah, we don't even have that much time before we catch up to the present.
Oh my God, you're right. We don't. We really don't.
Is he criming right now?
No.
Okay, we'll leave it on that.
Yeah. He's still alive, and
that's good.
I need to figure out if he's actually relevant. He's endorsing candidates, I'll give you that.
Oh damn.
There's an election coming up for the Northern Mariana Islands this year, I think. Either this year or next year, and he has endorsed his chosen candidates.
Does the election happen during our winter, and can we go as journalists.
Oh my God. I think it's in November.
It'll be cold here.
That's true. That's true. All right. I'll start looking at tickets for Saipan. We'll see what we can get.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah, hop onto the Patreon.
Yes, to all our Patreon listeners, you are doing God's work.
Saipan. Oh man. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next week when we're in Saipan here on Gadfly. Island Vacation Con. Take all your money. Wait, was I recording for that?
Wait. Oh shit.
Oh. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?